Hey, it's Tom from Texas, and it's time for another Floppy Deep Dive. And we're going to be doing another episode in our series that everybody loves, the Commodore 64 versus the Atari 800XL. And I got my latest t-shirt, Gen X t-shirt on here, raised on Atari and Commodore. And my very first console was the Atari 2600, like I think a lot of you guys my age had. Let's go ahead, let's not take any more time and jump right into it. We're going to be looking at games that start with the letter I. So games like International Karate, Into the Eagle's Nest, Infiltrator, and a lot more other games that start with I. So go ahead, pull up a chair, grab a joystick, and let's get started. Boom.
First up is International Karate, known in the USA as World Karate Championship, published by Epix. Now I have to admit, when I first came across this game on the Atari 800XL, I was shocked because I did not know that they created it. Growing up, I always thought this was a Commodore 64 only title. It was one of the most popular games back in the day, and I spent countless hours playing it on the C64 with friends. Now let's talk about graphics. The C64 version takes the edge here with the sharper visuals and cleaner animation. The characters just pop more, and there's something about the color palette that seems more classic on the C64. Now on the Atari 800XL, it still looks great, but there are moments where the edges feel a bit rougher. The difference isn't huge, but for me, the C64 wins this round because it really captures that classic look I remember. Now on the sound, on the Commodore 64, International Karate takes things up a notch with its atmospheric music that plays throughout the match. This background music really enhances the feeling of being in the heat of the martial arts duel, where the Atari 800XL, on the other hand, sticks strictly to sound effects. You'll hear every punch, kick, and block, but it's missing the continuous soundtrack. This difference in the audio presentation creates two distinct experiences, one where you're immersed in the atmosphere and another one where the focus is purely on the action sounds. But how about the gameplay? Here's where both systems really hold up. The controls are smooth and responsive on both, which is crucial for a game like this. It's easy to pull off moves and the fluidity is spot on. I spent hours playing this as a kid, and I still get the same feeling of satisfaction landing a well-timed kick or punch. But neither system disappointed me here. So overall, I have to give the win to the Commodore 64. And which version of International Karate do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. Next up is Into the Eagle's Nest, a top-down action game that often compared to Gauntlet, but with a World War II twist. Released in 1986, this one takes me back to those early days of strategy and action-packed gameplay. It's set in a heavily fortified Nazi fortress, and your mission is to rescue prisoners and blow up the facility. I remember discovering this game as a kid and being blown away by the mix of strategy and action. It's like playing out a movie on your computer. And in terms of graphics, both the C64 and Atari 800XL version does a fantastic job. The layout of the fortress is easy to navigate and the enemies are well defined. However, I think the C64 color palette gives it a slight edge in terms of visual detail, and the Atari 800XL does hold its own, though especially with its smoother scrolling. Sound-wise, both versions deliver immersive atmospheric effects, gunshots, explosions, and alarms. It really brings the fortress to life, and this isn't a huge difference here, but I'd give a slight edge to the C64 thanks to the SID chip, which adds a bit more depth to the sound effects. Now let's talk gameplay. Both versions are identical when it comes to core mechanics. This game's about carefully planning and resource management, and you gotta conserve your ammo and health as you're limited resources on each level, and you're tempted to shoot everything in sight, but you'll quickly run out of ammo if you do. And trust me, some boxes contain bombs that can end your game in seconds if you're not paying attention. It happened to me. Now, a pro tip, I wish I'd known back in the day, watch the guards' patterns, the patrol patterns. You can avoid unnecessary fights by sneaking past them at the right moment, but it's a game that rewards strategy over brute force, which made it stand out back then, and it still holds up today. Overall, I think both systems handle this game really well. It's a tight battle between the two, but for me, it's a tie. The C64 edges ahead with sound and color, while the Atari Atari 800XL offers that smooth gameplay performance. So what do you think? Put it down in the comments. Next up is Infiltrator, and flying that helicopter was an absolute blast. Both on the C64 and Atari versions, they really nailed the feeling of being a pilot on a covert mission. The graphics look fantastic on both systems. No real difference here, but the level of detail when you're flying into the enemy territory really brings back that sense of excitement I had as a kid. Now let's talk about those flying mechanics. Back in the day when I had a cracked copy of this game, I had no clue how to get that helicopter off the ground because I didn't have a manual. I remember being stuck for ages just trying to figure it out. But once you get the hang of it, it's such a rewarding challenge. You need to program the automatic direction finder ADF and avoid enemies and respond to radio calls to figure out if nearby planes are friends or foes. And these are little details that make it immersive and so much fun to play. One cool thing that I missed back in the day is that your helicopter has whisper mode, which lets you sneak past enemy bases undetected. I don't think I even knew that was a feature as a kid, but now it's like discovering a hidden gem all over again. Here's a pro tip. Always use your shafts and flares to dodge enemy missiles. And if you get caught on the ground, use your fake ID papers to trick the guards or knock them out with gas grenades. Now, the gameplay itself is nearly identical in both systems. Whether you're flying the helicopter or sneaking into enemy compounds, the controls are responsive and the mission keeps you engaged the entire time. There's always something new to do, whether it's flying, infiltrating, or managing your resources. And for me, this is another push between these two systems. Both systems deliver a fantastic experience. I honestly couldn't choose a winner. What about you? Did anyone else struggle with taking off back in the day, or was it just me without the manual? Let me know in the comments. Moving on to the fourth game, Invasion. Now, this one threw me a bit. Without the manual, I was pretty much winging it and just trying to figure things out as I went. I'm sure some of you know that feeling, especially with these old strategy games where a guide was practically essential. Visually, I think the Atari's version pulls ahead here. The colors are crisp, the layout feels more polished, and honestly, it makes the whole experience a little more engaging. Comparing it to the Commodore 64 version, the Atari has that extra edge in the visuals. Gameplay mechanics aside, the Atari 800XL simply looks better on this one. So for Invasion, the Atari 800 gets my vote. If any of you have actually played Invasion with the manual, or if you tried it in both systems, I'd love to hear what you think, especially if the manual unlocks some hidden tricks I missed. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Before we wrap up, let's give a quick nod to a few other games that start with I on both systems. Infidel, Ingrid's Back, and Imperium Galactum. These are more text-heavy and strategy-focused games, so they didn't make the full comparison lineup, but they're still noteworthy. Infidel is an Infocom classic, renowned for its interactive fiction and puzzle solving in the desert exploration setting. Fans of Infocom will appreciate the rich storytelling and the immersive challenge. Now, Ingrid's Back I never heard of before, but it brings a bit of humor with British-style fantasy and quirky characters, making it a standout in the adventure genre. Imperium Galactum dives into space strategy focused on interstellar conquest and resource management for a slower-paced tactical experience. And in the end, whether you play these text-based games on the C64 or Atari, the experience is equally fantastic on both. For text adventures, it's a tie across the board.
So those are all the games. I hope you enjoyed it. Now it's your turn. You get to go down in the comments and tell me what you think. Which system were these games better on, the Commodore 64 or the Atari 800XL? Go do it now. Also, go check out the other videos that I made of the Commodore 64 versus Atari A through H if you haven't seen those yet. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that too. So until next time, thank you for joining me on another Floppy Deep Dive. Boom.